Hello friends, my name is Marina and this is Rapunzel Fiber Arts. Today we have a pretty exciting video. I have a couple fleeces that I'm going to be taking to my new local mill. This place has been in existence only a couple months now, I believe. They don't have washing facilities up yet, but their carding machines are working. So my plan is to bring I have two Gotland BFL fleeces that I got. They're crossed, so it's two different breeds were parents of the sheep that I got this fleece from. So one parent was a Gotland, one parent was a blue-faced Leicester, and the fleeces that I have are the offspring of those parents. Hopefully that made sense. It's some really, really gorgeous wool. Again, I've already dyed this. But look at that curl. I mean, let's separate out one lock. You can really see how freaking springy that is. There is one thing about this fleece that I'm not super thrilled about, and that is that it has a break. That said, both of these sections should be long enough that once it's carded and this break is allowed to occur, the finished roving shouldn't be short, so short that I can't spin it. Because this is still, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches long on each lock, or on each half of the lock. So I think that this is going to work up into something that I can use and spin and really like. I'm gonna check before I, pay and commit with the folks who run the mill and make sure that they agree with me. But I'm pretty confident that I can spin a 3 or 4 inch staple length, even on a long wool that's gonna be a little bit slipperier than like a merino fleece, but it should still spin just fine. So I've got this in a variety of colors. This one is probably my favorite because I combined black and purple. And the black dye broke, resulting in this like blue-black variation. And then this purple got in there too, creating just the most fun texture of dye. Like the way that I did this was kettle dyeing. So I just had a pot and I put my wool in and then I just sprinkled dye on top of that. And then it soaked down into the water, into the wool. Making this really, really fun style of dyeing, where you have different sections of color even on the same piece of wool. So I've got this fleece, I've got another fleece from the same cross that doesn't have that break, but is the same breed heritage. So it should still be quite nice. Some of it I have spun into some lock spun yarns, which I showed you in a prior video. And these are great. I'm going to be sending these off to the farmer who raised the sheep, but I need to do something with my half, because this was a part of a group on Facebook called Spin a Pound, Get a Pound, where you get a fleece from a farmer who doesn't spin or doesn't have time to spin. You spin half of it to their specifications and keep half of it for yourself. It's a great group. It's not super active anymore, but I had gotten a couple fleeces from this farmer. She really liked my lock spinning technique and the yarn that it created. So I did that for her. And then this is with the remains of those fleeces that are mine to do with as I please. So I've got that purple and black. I've got this blue. And just a tiny bit of this purple. And those are all gonna go together. And then I have some green and I have some natural colors as well. Just a sec. I'm going to turn the camera around and show you what I've got. All right, so here is the stuff I just showed you. I've got this purple, this blue, this black and purple and blue, and then a little bit of a nice gray. And I'm thinking that's going to all be one batch of yarn or of roving. I'm going to just blend all of these colors together. I think they'll look really good together. And then I'll have more of whatever colorway this looks like. And then over here, I've got some greens and a little bit more natural. Here's the natural. This is a little bit lighter, a little bit creamier than the other one. And then I've got this really, really nice blue-green, which is a little bit greener in real life than it looks on the camera. And then I've got a whole bunch of this green. And then that's all going to get blended together into another batch. All right, so that's my plan. I've got 2 batches. I think they're gonna look good all blended together. I'm not thrilled that I have so much of the natural color. I would like it if it was more dyed, because that is gonna lighten the overall shade of the yarn, but it is what it is. I don't have time to go and dye more before I bring it to the mill because I'm bringing it to the mill this afternoon. But they said that it should be ready within like a week for me to go pick it back up, which is super exciting. That's a really quick turnaround. Yeah, that's my plan. This afternoon we'll be going to the mill. Hopefully I'll get a little bit of footage there so that you can see what their facility looks like, maybe meet the folks running it. And yeah, that's the plan for today. And then we'll also check in after the fact to see what everything looks like when it's all milled together. So stay tuned. All right, friends, so here is their washing and dyeing stations, which again, they don't have water yet, so that's not up and running. Here is their main room where they hold some events. I will have linked in the description some of their information if you are local and want to come. There we just saw their drying room, and then here's where the real magic happens. This is their picking machine, which you can see feeds directly into a wooden box, which is where the picked fiber ends up after it's run through the machine. You can see all those spikes on the drum. That's the picking drum. And then over here we have the carding machine. You can see this has many, many drums. I don't know exactly how many, but certainly more than the 2 that my little drum carders have. And the fiber gets passed through from drum to drum, getting carded multiple times until it comes out the other side. We will get some really cool footage in a moment of my fiber being processed, but this is what they had on the machines when I was there. This is their drafting machine, which just elongates and makes the fiber a little bit more ready for spinning. I did not have this process done, but it was only a couple of dollars extra, so it certainly wasn't a huge investment either way. Here is their spinning and plying machines. Those machines are in fact the exact same machine. One just spins in the opposite direction, just like a spinning wheel. And then as we pan to the right, you will see their scanning machine, one of their coning machines, and then where the bobbins go from bobbin to cone, they also have those steaming cylinders, which are pretty cool. And then here we have my fiber. Look at those beautiful blues and greens and natural grays. These are getting fed directly onto the picker, so it will open up those fibers and make them a little bit more processed and ready to be carded. Here you can see the drum grabbing those fibers and pulling them towards the picker, which you can see is moving very quickly, which is why it's behind a layer of plastic for the safety of the person using the machine. And this is just opening up those fibers, picking them open, which is a process I do very frequently with my hands, but this machine obviously does much more efficiently. And just opens up those fibers for the carding process. Here is that little stall, the wooden stall that the picker feeds into. So you can see all of this fiber has been picked open. It's not fully processed, to be sure, but it is picked open, much more ready to be put on the carding cloth without the carding cloth doing most of the work. And here you can see again that picking drum with the big spikes on it. So that's the picked fiber. And here we can see the fiber that's been picked open, which they have sorted into little bins, presumably so they can feed it onto the carder at a consistent rate. And then you can see behind that table is the carder, which they've got all loaded up with fiber, and then she'll turn it on and you can see and hear that machine really going. So it feeds the fiber on very gradually, and then the drums will grab the fiber and it will be passed through this series of drums, and then when it comes out the other side, it will be fairly processed. The fiber that I sent in underwent 2 cards, so this is the first one for the green fiber, and you can see it's coming off of the machine in a very thin, consistent bat. So like a very long, square piece of fiber, but it's very thin, would be pretty hard to spin from because it's just kind of cloud at this point. It's not really organized into spinning fiber yet. But this is just the first card, and we'll see in a moment what it looks like after the second card. So you can see the blue and black is being loaded onto the picker while they continue working with the green fiber on the drum carder. Again, you can see all of that fiber being carded through the machine until it comes out the other side. Again, this is just the first run through the carder, so this is not the finished product. You can see just how light and airy that fiber is. Other than not being the most spinnable, it is gorgeous and is turning out just wonderfully. So I believe this has now undergone the first card. You can see it's very fluffy and the color is pretty uniform. And then it's going through the machine, undergoing its second card. So it's already fluffed, just being passed through all of those drums once again. And then this time, when it comes out, it's being processed into some very fluffy roving. You can see it's being passed through those rollers, and the roving that's coming out is much more manageable than the big bats we were seeing earlier. So that is the finished product of the green fibers, which I am super, super excited about. And then here we can see the black and blue fiber going on the carder for the exact same process. All right, friends, I am in my car at the fiber mill, and I got the goods. Look at them! There's so much, and I love the colors. I'll show you better in person when we get home, but guys, I'm so excited! All right, friends, so I am back from the mill. I just went and picked up the finished roving, and I'm so excited. I walked in the door, I saw the 2 bags of roving on the table, and I legitimately, this is my response. I was like, are those for me? I was so excited. And they're behind me right now. They're in giant bags, which were a little bit too big to really reasonably show you. I'll show you for scale in a minute, but first I want to show you up close and personal just how gorgeous these colors turned out. So this is that green base that we did. If you'll recall, this had green and like a greenish blue, almost tealy color, and then some natural gray. And all of those colors were picked together and then carded together and this is the result. It is roving that I've just balled up here for making it more manageable. But look at how airy that is. Like you can see my hand through it, which is just what I like with spinning fiber that I'm working with. I want something really nice and airy and practically pre-drafted. Like I don't have to do very much to this to make it ready for adding twist and turning into yarn, which is great. That's what I love. I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. There's practically no VM left. And other than actually going ahead and spinning some samples to make sure that I like spinning it, I could not be more in love. The other one, which was the blue and black and a little bit of purple, I like. I'm not in love. It's this like blue-gray, which I think is going to work up really nicely when it's spun, because there's also a lot of variation in here between the darker and the lighter fibers, which I think is going to look really nice when I start adding twist and you start to see some of the barber pulling effect of that. It won't be like a true barber pull, but you'll be able to see the different colors in the strands, in the pieces of fiber. So I think I'm still happy with this. I wish I had been able to separate out the blue and the black so that it was like a black and a blue and not a blue-black or a blue-gray. But regardless, I'm still happy. As long as this is a pleasant spinning experience, I could not be happier. So that's what we have. These two gorgeous colors. I don't know if I'm going to do something together with these or do two separate projects, but regardless, I'm excited. I'm probably going to spin these up in the not too distant future because, like I said, I'm really excited about them, and there's no reason for them to sit if I'm enthusiastic and ready to start spinning them now. So I've got to finish the project on my wheel and then a fleece that I'm spinning, but then after that, these will probably be next, which is very exciting. So that is great news, but before I finish this video, I do want to spin up some samples of each of these, just so I can give you a little example of what they look like spun. So I'm going to go do that momentarily. There will be no change for you. You will just jump from this to me spinning. So enjoy. All right, friends, so here I have taken some of my fiber, about an ounce of each color, and I am just going ahead and spinning up some sample skeins to make sure that I know what I'm working with and that the finished yarn that I eventually produce is to the specifications that I would like. Here you see me doing a ply back sample, which is just when you let the fiber or the yarn double back on itself, and you kind of observe the amount of twist in that plied yarn to see how much twist is in your singles and if you need to add or subtract an amount of twist. So that's just me experimenting a little bit and making sure that I like the diameter and the texture of that finished yarn. Other than that, you can see that my front hand is pulling out this fiber supply from my back hand and also controlling when and how the twist enters that fiber supply. And the backhand also kind of smooths back the fiber and makes sure it isn't getting too bunched up so that when that fiber reaches the drafting triangle, which is the area between my two hands, it's not lumpy bumpy or uneven so that the yarn that I'm making is a little bit bumpy. So I'm just kind of controlling that twist and controlling the fiber supply so that the yarn I'm making is consistent and even and works up the way that I want. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to spin about an ounce of both the green and the blue-gray and see how I like the finished yarns. I don't do plying on camera, but you've seen me do that multiple times. If you need to, go check out one of my other spinning and plying videos, and you can see my general technique for that. But I just do a basic plying process to create a center pull ball 2-ply, and that is how I swatched or sampled this yarn. So that is that, and in a moment you will be able to see the finished product. All right, friends, we are back. We took some of this roving, spun it up into yarn, and then off camera I did some plying, and these are the mostly finished skeins. They are very, very fuzzy. I think that is due to the woolen style prep of picking and carding the locks. So they weren't very organized as combed top typically is. Because they were roving, they were a woolen style prep, which results in a very fuzzy yarn. You can see all of that fuzz hanging off the fiber. And making a really, really fun, fuzzy yarn. I would compare the texture to be pretty similar to a fairly fine mohair. It's not quite next to skin soft, but it's got that fuzz to it that mohair often does when I spin it. So yeah, I would compare this fiber to pretty similar to a mohair, even though it's a BFL Gotland wool cross. So that's kind of how the yarn worked up. In terms of how I enjoyed spinning it, I really enjoyed spinning it. It spun very quickly, very easily. And I did these in like a day or something for an ounce each. That's not too shabby. And I'm very happy with them. There's a lot of depth to the yarn because it was multiple colors blended together. You can kind of see darker and lighter bits. You can see like almost black fibers when you get really close that shine through and show you the heatheredness and the depth of the color in this yarn, which is really, really nice. And I'm super glad that these colors were able to work out so well. The blue-gray looks really gray on camera, but is in fact a blue-gray. It is much more apparent in natural light, so I think my ring light might be showing it a little bit more grayish, but it is in fact a really nice blue-gray, which was not super apparent in the roving, so I'm really glad that I spun up a sample, because I wasn't super thrilled with the roving, if you'll recall. But I really, really like these. I think they worked up great. Like I said, they aren't quite next to skin soft, but I think they're gonna make a great garment of outerwear, either a vest or a jacket or something like that, that I have a couple layers between me and it, but it will keep me very cozy and warm because of the woolen style spin or prep of this fiber, because I spun it more worsted style. But the woolen style prep, which makes this a semi-woolen yarn, is going to result in a very warm fabric. So I'm very happy. I think these are going to work up into really, really pretty swatches and eventually a really, really pretty garment. So I'm very excited. I really, really enjoyed working with the mill on this project. They were so kind and accommodating and willing to work with me. I think I brought this in like a day after I originally messaged them, and they had it processed in 2 days. They do want me to say that is not how it's always going to happen, especially once they start getting busier and are able to wash and dye stuff themselves. I think they're going to be pretty swamped. But because they don't have their washing facility online, I was able to get in with my already washed and dyed fiber and get my stuff processed super quick. So I'm really happy with that. I am really happy with the product. I think they did a great job on the roving. They got almost all the VM out and produced a really lofty, airy roving that was a pleasure to spin. So we'll definitely be going back. Would definitely recommend to my friends. If you are local to the area, feel free to check them out. They have a lot of open crafting at their location, where a couple of times a month you can come in and sit and spin or knit or do some other kind of crafting and hang out with friends. So if you are local and you like that kind of thing, feel free to come check it out. It's in Easthampton, Massachusetts. Other than that, I think that about wraps up today's video. So I will put information about Alchemy Fiber Mill in the description, as well as chapters and all that jazz that I always include in the description. So feel free to check that out if you are so inclined. If you liked this video, please like, subscribe, or comment. Feel free to do all three if you are so inclined. And I will see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. I even learned a couple things with the whole mill processing. So I hope you liked it too. See you next time, friends.